Trade recap on how I caught high of day amid just about 3.5 RR trade in Nasdaq yesterday. First thing I want to do, apologise for the setup. We have now just moved to Bangkok, Thailand. Ordered a lamp, came with no bulb. Camera isn't working. I need to connect the mic to it. It's not working right now. So we're going to be using the MacBook. So we're just going to have to deal with the situation we're in. But here we go. This is why I end up taking this position. I'm going to go on to the 15-minute. This was from yesterday, so I am putting this out the day after, the 7th of January, if you're reviewing it later on. We end up pumping to the upside of these draws on liquidity. There was 4-hour highs here, a daily high here. These highs were very far away for us. These would have been the next draw on liquidity. These in PM session when I come on, as I was traveling, this is the first time I got on, were quite high away for a PM session to push us all the way that high after extending this high up. I was not expecting that. I was expecting for PM to pull back, not go all the way back down, but pull back maybe into a key area like these lows here, maybe into these gaps here. Somewhere along them lines, I was looking for price to pull back to. We ended up, I was waiting for a good setup to take shorts. First thing I need, a higher time frame draw on liquidity. Then, because I'm taking such a high of day play, I'm going against the market, I want a short-term draw on liquidity. I want a quick break even. I want my inversion, and I want some sort of SMT. And we got all of them in this position. We got our SMT right there. And after I seen that SMT, I was like, okay, we can look for a position here because we have this big imbalance. We have this big fair value gap to the upside. I can look to get inversed. I can use these lows, swing lows right down here as a break even level if I get in on a position. So I was looking at them for break even if it wants to go straight. There we go. We have these kind of, we're building a little bit of a trend line. I wouldn't call it trend line liquidity, but we do have these equal lows to the downside. And this would have been a very good trade to take, in my opinion. This short right here, if you got a position, you could have went break even and took TPs here. For me, I was seeing these as well. I was seeing a 15-minute unfill gap, which was here. So that was a 15-minute unfill gap. We'll just leave the red line there. We also had this 1-minute unfill gap right here. So these are two other draws in liquidity we can look to target. These are higher down, so you're going to have to hold this position longer. Obviously, there is this swing point here as well that you could have took TP at. If we go here to the 5-minute time frame, from this move up, I'm expecting us to come back to 50% of the range, which, if I go there from our, well, it isn't 50% of the range because it's not the New York move, but the last move to push this up, this is 50% of it. If I put my stop there and here, as you can see, it correlates directly with this 1-minute unfill gap as well as the second 15-minute unfill gap. That's something to watch out for. I wanted then, that's showing me that's a high probability area. That's an area we can pull back to and bounce off to go higher. That is where I'm looking to take my trade to. I said if I catch this trade, go break even quickly. I'm not going to take profits at the equal lows because I'm confident on my higher time frame drawn liquidity. If you know me and how I trade, if you watch some of my other recaps, I usually take smaller RR positions unless I have a really strong drawn liquidity. And I was expecting, if this plays out, to be high of day. And I'm going to show you what ended up happening and how we kind of use market intuition, how like you just know after you catch a good position like that it will end up being high of day, or at least a good position because of how price is moving. Well, you don't know, but you can guess from your intuition. Price ends up coming down here, and that closed right there. Momentum to downside is where I entered this position. I ended up, because this candle went up, getting quite a better fill on it. I ended up putting my stops at this order block right here. It hadn't been tapped into, so we had no protected high I could use as a break-even level. I'm going to have to make this position a little bit bigger. 1 second. Now, break-even very quickly on this position. Now, in the first candle. This is where you can look to take, you could have looked to take profits here. About a 1.5 RR. Maybe I was filled a little bit lower. I can't remember. It was somewhere on this candle body. Okay, leave me alone. It's on my Instagram if you want to go check. As you can see here, this what would be the normal trade I would take. That would have been TP. I would have been took out trailing probably here. When this went down, I would have put my stops here, and I would have been took out for 1.4 R in 3 minutes. Beautiful trade, okay? That wasn't what I was looking for. For me, if I'm right about this position, we're going lower. And I not new, but I thought in this position we're at least going down to this low here for 3.5 RR. Yeah, 365 RR. Somewhere around that level. As I've said, you can check it on Instagram for exact entries and so on. Remember, it's 50% range, a 1-minute unfill gap, some other unfill gaps as well. So I ended up, as you can see, price comes back up here in a minute. There we go. When we put in this high, when the 56 candle opened, if you're in hourly UK time, it's 17.56. When we put in that, I move my stops to this level. There's where I move my break-even stops to. It now went from here to here. This is a protected high. I do not want to see price trade back to this high right here. This position is protected, as I've said. Push it down, and as you can see, when we let price play out, then we slowly trickle down and we end up hitting TP right there. I was nervous when we got this candle here. Went down here and shot back up. I ended up getting out about here. It actually was a little lower. And there was my position right there. So if I move my... Let me remake the position. This is not going to work. Put stops there. And then we ended up targeting... We ended up getting out for about here. It ended up being somewhere from 3.5 to 3.7 hour. I can't really remember exactly what it was. And that ended up being the position we ended up taking. Super good position. As you can see, we end up catching high of day. Because remember I said from this area, this is about knowing your key areas to bounce off. Look what happens when we hit this area. We bounce off it. We go back to the upside. So that was a great TP level, a great area we could reject off. I was right about that. And remember I said if that is going to be the high and if it's protected, I feel like it's going to be low or high of day. And as you can see, I was pretty spot on. That was the start of the whole move back down. Obviously, you could have caught, whatever, 15 hours or something, whatever. Never going to hold that, by the way, ever, okay? Never would take that position. But that's very simply how I caught the high of day. Just about knowing when we're overextended. That is a harder position to take because you are going against the market. I love when there's a quick break even in them positions and a shorter time frame drawing liquidity. So you have the option if you don't feel like price is going down to your low of day or going down more. In this example, we're taking a short position. You can take TP or you can take some profits, maybe take some contracts out at the shorter term drawing liquidity. And you can use the shorter term drawing liquidity as your break even level. So I'll have to have that if I'm taking that high risk of position like this one was. But as you can see in this example, it obviously worked out, and obviously more times than 50% works out because we usually trade 1 hour, but they're the type of plays that make us good money. We end up only being able to risk 10 contracts because we're using alpha, 2 alpha qualified accounts and a standard. The leader is a qualified. So I put 10 contracts in, got in about 300 risk, I think it was. 270 risk, actually, I think it was 260, 270, and made about 8.85 per account. And that is very simply how the trade I took. Any questions, let me know below. Links to mentorship, Instagram, free Discord. Make sure you come get involved. There's free PDFs in there as well to help you out with your trading. Make sure you come get involved, and they're all linked in the description below.